When we moved into our new house in Beaufort, South Carolina, it smelled like cinnamon and old wood. Mommy said the house was built 100 years ago. That's even older than Grandpa. I liked my room. It had pink walls and big windows. There was a tree right outside that made fun shadows on the floor when the sun went down. But the weirdest thing was the mirror. It was already in the room when we moved in. Tall, with a swirly gold frame, standing all by itself in the corner. Mommy said, "It came with the house. Looks fancy, huh?" I said, "Can we move it?" But Mommy just smiled. "You don't have to be scared of a mirror, sweetie." I wasn't sure. It felt like the mirror was watching me. The first night, I brushed my teeth, put on my jammies, and looked into the mirror one more time before bed. And I saw something strange. It was me in the mirror. But behind me, in the reflection, there were people. They weren't Mommy or Daddy. They were strangers. One man in a suit, a lady in an old dress, a little boy with no shoes, just standing behind me, staring. I turned around, so fast. No one was there. I looked back in the mirror. Empty. I told Mommy, there were people in the mirror. She kissed my forehead and said, "It's just your imagination, pumpkin. Moving can make you feel all funny inside." But I knew what I saw. The next night, I tried not to look at it. I put my blanket over my head and told my stuffed bunny, "Don't let me peek." But I did, and the strangers were back. This time there were more. A girl in braids, a man with no eyes. They stood closer. So close I could see their faces. They looked sad and angry. I didn't even turn around this time. I screamed. Mommy and Daddy came running. "What happened?" I pointed at the mirror. "They were in there." Daddy looked. "There's nothing here, honey. It's just a mirror." But I cried and begged. "Can we cover it up? Please?" So Daddy put a blanket over it. I felt better after that. But the next night, when I went to bed, the blanket was on the floor, and the mirror was uncovered. I didn't touch it. I promise. And when I looked, they were all there. So many people now, just standing behind me. Some of them had their mouths open like they were screaming, but I couldn't hear anything. It was silent. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to look anymore. Then I heard a whisper. "Why can you see us?" I opened my eyes, but I didn't turn around. I ran out of the room so fast my feet didn't even feel the floor. That night I slept on the couch with the TV on. Daddy was mad, but Mommy let me stay there. In the morning, I told my neighbor, Miss Rose. She was super old and knew all the town stories. When I told her about the mirror, her face turned white like flour. "That mirror?" she said. "That house used to be a funeral home a long time ago. That mirror was in the back room where they kept the bodies. People said it could hold on to souls." I didn't even know what to say. That night, I didn't go in my room. But from the hallway, I peeked, and the mirror was glowing. It had a light inside it, like moonlight underwater. The room was dark, but the mirror, it shimmered. I heard footsteps, not from inside the house, from inside the mirror, like they were walking on glass. I shut the door and ran. The next day, Mommy finally believed me. She saw the handprint on the inside of the mirror. Too high for me, too big for Daddy. That was the last day the mirror stayed in the house. We gave it to a museum. Now I sleep with a small mirror under my bed, the kind I use to brush my hair. But I never look in it after dark, because sometimes I still hear whispers. Don't look at the mirror. When we moved to our new house in Naperville, Illinois, I was kinda excited. We used to live in a small apartment with loud neighbors. Now, we had a big house with trees in the yard and a mailbox with our name on it, the Parkers. The house was tall and old, with creaky floors and a big triangle roof. Mommy said it was built a long time ago, before even Grandma was born. I liked my new room. It had a big window, and I could see the backyard where the squirrels ran and played. But on the very first night, something felt Weird. I woke up when it was still dark. I didn't know why. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. I looked out my window and saw something that made my tummy feel tight. In the very top window, the one on the pointy part of the house, I saw a face. A lady's face. She was looking straight at me. Her skin was pale like paper, and her eyes were big and dark. She didn't move. She just stared. I blinked, and she was gone. I ran to Mommy and Daddy's room and told them there was a lady in the window. Daddy got up and checked. "That's just the attic," he said. "It's sealed shut. There's no way anyone could be up there." "But I saw her," I said, holding his hand tight. "It was probably just a shadow, buddy," he said, tucking me back in. But the next night, it happened again. And again. Every night, around the same time, I'd wake up and look, and there she was. Her face, that same lady, staring. I didn't sleep much. My eyes hurt from trying not to blink. My chest felt squishy like I couldn't breathe. One day I told my babysitter, Miss Carla. She believed me. She said, "You know, some houses keep secrets, especially old ones." That made me even more scared. The next night, I stayed up with my flashlight. I pointed it at the attic window, and the lady smiled. I screamed so loud, my parents came running. "She smiled at me," I yelled, pointing. "She's real." Daddy looked again. "That attic is completely sealed. There's no door to it. It's not even finished. There's nothing up there." But I saw something. Behind the lady's face was a little curtain, one that I'd never seen from outside before. It was old and dusty and swaying even though the window was closed. That night, I had a dream. At least I think it was a dream. I heard someone whisper, "Let me in." I woke up with the covers pulled off and the window wide open. "We're moving," I told Mommy. But she said no. She said it was just nightmares. "New places take time," she said. But I knew it was her, the lady in the window. I asked Daddy to take me to the library. We looked up old stuff about our house. A nice lady helped us find newspapers. I couldn't read all the words, but Daddy gasped when he saw a picture. "That's her," I pointed. It was an old photo from 1953. It showed a lady standing in front of our house. Her name was Mrs. Evelyn Brewer, and she lived alone. The article said, "Missing for 2 weeks before neighbors noticed. Never found." Her face looked just like the one in the window. After that, Daddy went up to the attic. He had to break a board to get inside. It was full of dust and old boxes. One of the boxes had letters, from Evelyn to someone named Walter. But the last one was written in red crayon and said, "I never left." That night, we all slept in the living room, and I didn't look at the attic window. I was too scared. The next day, workers came and boarded the attic window from the outside. Daddy said it was for safety, but I knew it was to keep her in. Now, we keep the lights on every night. And sometimes, I still hear the whisper, "Let me in." But I cover my ears and hum real loud, because I know she's still up there, watching. Hi, my name is Jamie, and I want to tell you something really scary that happened when I moved into my very first house. It happened in Austin, Texas, where the sun is hot, the trees are tall, and the houses sit close together like blocks in a toy box. I was so excited when I moved in. I had my own bedroom, my own kitchen, and even a tiny little balcony upstairs where I could look at the sky at night. But it was also really, really quiet. I had always lived with my mommy, daddy, 2 little sisters, and our dog. My house before was full of noise and barking and laughter. But this new house, it was quiet. Too quiet. At night, I would sit on my little balcony, just big enough to stand on, and look around. All the houses behind mine were lined up just like mine, only separated by big wooden fences. One house, right behind mine, looked strange. Nobody came out. Nobody played in the yard. I never saw a face in the windows. The grass was tall and messy, and it looked like no one had touched it in years. The house was dark almost all the time. except sometimes, at night, I'd see a light turn on in the bedroom. One Saturday, I got curious. I decided to walk around the block and knock on the door. Maybe someone was lonely and wanted a friend. But when I got there, I saw that the house was old and broken. The paint was peeling, the windows were cloudy, and the doorbell was all smashed in. So I knocked. Knock, knock, knock. No answer. I waited. I almost left. But then, I saw something move behind the curtain. Just a flicker, like someone was watching me. Then, with a loud bang, the door burst open. I jumped back, my heart pounding. There, standing in the doorway, was a very old lady with gray hair and a tight bun and eyes so wide it looked like she didn't blink. She didn't say hi. She didn't smile. She just stared. And stared. After a while, she whispered, "My name is Mrs. Wren," and gave me a weird little smile. I told her I was her new neighbor, but she didn't ask my name. She just kept looking at me like I was a bug she didn't like. I hurried home, my hands shaking. That night I stepped out onto my balcony and saw her, standing right in the middle of her yard, looking straight up at me. She didn't wave, she didn't move. She just stood there, her eyes looking right into mine. I ran inside and closed all my windows, but every night after that, I'd see her again. Sometimes in her yard, sometimes in her window. She moved from room to room, always watching me. One night, I looked out my window, and she was still there, just standing, still, staring. I called my dad, and he said maybe she was just a lonely old lady and that I shouldn't worry. But it didn't feel that way. It felt wrong. She felt scary. A few days later, I found something in my yard that made my stomach feel cold. A sock. A lady's sock. Just sitting there, on my side of the fence. She had been in my yard. She had been in my yard. That night, I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. I kept listening for sounds. Then, in the middle of the night, the doorbell rang. Ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, ding dong, over and over. I didn't even look out the window. I knew it was her. I got mad. I was tired and just wanted to sleep. So I threw on a shirt and opened the door to tell her to go away. But when I opened the door, she ran at me with a knife. She screamed, "You took my son!" And her face looked like a monster. Her eyes were wide, her mouth was twisted, and she swung the knife at me. I grabbed her arm and held on tight. The knife dropped. She tried to bite me. She was screaming and growling and saying she was going to hurt me. I held her down and called the police with my shaking hands. It felt like forever before they came. But when they did, they put her in their car, and she screamed the whole way. I never saw her again. The police said she went to a special hospital because she wasn't okay in her head. But sometimes, even now, I still look out my window at night. And I wonder, what if she comes back? Hi, I'm Jimmy. My dog's name is Biscuit, and my mommy's name is Kayla. We moved to a big house in a little town called Truth or Consequences in New Mexico. That's a real place. It sounds like a funny name, but it's real, I promise. The house was huge, too big for just me, Mommy, and Biscuit. Mommy said she wanted to live far away from people, so we moved way out into the desert. There were no other houses around us, just cactuses, sand, and mountains in the distance. I liked our new house, at first. One day when I was playing with Biscuit, the lights upstairs went zap and turned off. But the lights downstairs stayed on. Mommy called Daddy, who works with wires and lights and stuff. He came to look at the basement because that's where the house's power comes from. "Stay upstairs," he told me. But I wanted to follow him. I didn't like the basement. It was dark and cold and smelled like wet socks. Still, I peeked down the stairs. "Weird," Daddy said. "There's too much stuff plugged in upstairs." Then he found a giant metal door at the back of the basement. It was big and silver and had a handle like a bank safe. It didn't look like any other door in our house. I asked, "What's in there, Daddy?" He pulled the handle. Clunk. It wouldn't open. "Huh," he said. "Locked." Mommy tried looking for the key in the drawers, but none of them worked. Not even the ones with weird shapes. Daddy called the people who used to live in our house. They sounded funny on the phone, like they didn't want to talk. "What's behind that big door in the basement?" Daddy asked. The man didn't answer. Then the lady whispered, "It's just an old storm room for tornadoes. Nothing important. Don't worry about it." But that made me more worried. If it was nothing, why wouldn't they give us the key? After that, I saw Daddy going down to the basement a lot. He would just stare at the metal door. Sometimes he even sat on the stairs for a long time, not saying anything. Mommy said he was just curious, but I could tell she was scared too. Then one day, Daddy called a locksmith, a man who opens doors. He came with tools and funny glasses and worked on the door for a long time. Then we heard it. Click. The door opened. I watched from the stairs. Inside, the room was dark and smelled like old cheese and dust. There were weird black and white pictures on the wall and scribbles I couldn't read. In the middle was a chair, just facing the wall. "Why is the chair staring at the wall?" I asked. No one answered. There was a tiny bed in the corner with yucky blankets, and there were empty chip bags and water bottles on the floor. Someone had been living down there. Not a long time ago. Just recently. Daddy said a bad word and looked around. Then he found another door, a tiny wooden one. He opened it, and it led to stairs that went up to a little door on the side of the house. We didn't even know that door was there. That's when we knew. Someone had been sneaking in and out of our house. For who knows how long, we told the police. They came with flashlights and took pictures and wrote things down. They said they would call the old owners, but the owners didn't pick up. Mommy looked scared. Daddy was mad. That night, Daddy locked the little side door with a big chain and heavy lock. Then he put a dresser in front of it. "No one's coming through there again," he said. But that night, bang, bang, bang! Someone knocked loud on the front door. Biscuit barked like crazy. Mommy and I hid under the blankets. Then we heard tiny rocks tap, tap, tap on our bedroom window. Mommy held me tight. "Don't move," she whispered. Daddy grabbed his baseball bat and looked out the window. No one was there. But then, crash! Glass shattered downstairs. We all screamed. Daddy ran down. I followed him. The kitchen window was broken. 2 shadows were running away through the yard. The police came again. They looked all over, but they didn't find anyone. The police think the person who lived in the basement got mad because they couldn't come back in. They wanted to scare us. Well, it worked. Now Mommy and I don't sleep well. Biscuit sleeps with us. Daddy keeps the bat near the door. We're all waiting for the police to find the old owners or whoever lived down there, but they're still looking. Every night before bed, I look at the windows, and I listen. I listen for taps and bangs, and I wonder if the person from the basement is coming back. Hi, my name is Benny. I was 5 when it happened, and this story is true. My mommy, daddy, baby brother Timmy, and I moved from a tiny apartment in the big, noisy city to a house in Boulder, Colorado. Daddy said we needed more space because Timmy cried a lot, and our toys were everywhere. The new house wasn't big, but it had a nice yard with trees and birds and something strange. Old statues. The statues were made of stone and looked like people and angels. Some had broken arms or missing faces. Mommy said they were artsy, but I thought they looked creepy. The first night, I heard a crack outside. Daddy said it was just the wind. But the next morning, one of the statues had turned around. It used to face the house. Now it was looking into the woods. I asked Mommy if she turned it. She said, "No, sweetie." I asked Daddy. He frowned and said, "Probably just my imagination." But the next morning, another statue turned. Then another. I started to feel really scared. The statues were supposed to be heavy. Too heavy for me or Timmy. Daddy tried to lift one but grunted and said, "Nope, way too heavy." He looked confused. Mommy looked scared. Then, on Saturday, I saw something scarier. I was playing with Timmy in the yard. Daddy was drinking coffee. Mommy was planting flowers. Then I looked up and saw them. All the statues were lined up at the edge of the house, shoulder to shoulder. They looked like they were watching us. "Daddy!" I screamed. He came running and his mouth dropped open. He grabbed Mommy and said, "Go inside. Now." That night, we all stayed in the living room. Daddy kept peeking out the window. Mommy didn't say much. She just hugged Timmy and me tight. The next morning, I saw something written on our house in big black letters. It said, "Go away." Daddy got mad. He rushed us inside and yelled, "Stay away from the windows!" He stormed into the yard and shouted, "Who did this?" But no one was there. Mommy called the police. 2 officers came, but they just wrote stuff in notebooks and said, "Could be some kids messing around." Daddy didn't believe that. "This isn't a joke," he said. "This is scary." That night, Mommy cried. I tried to be brave for Timmy, but I was shaking. Daddy said, "We'll be okay. I promise." But he was wrong. That same night, Mommy screamed. I ran into the living room and looked outside. There were 5 people in our backyard. They were wearing white masks. Their arms and legs moved all wiggly like puppets. They were dancing. It was the scariest thing I had ever seen. Daddy grabbed a big knife and told Mommy, "Call the police!" He opened the back door and shouted, "Get out of here!" The dancing people froze. Then they turned their heads, all at the same time, toward Daddy. "Inside! Now!" Daddy yelled, and he ran back inside, slammed the door, and locked it. The police came, but the creepy people were gone. After that, Daddy bought cameras and put them all around the house. Mommy didn't sleep for days. She asked Daddy, "Can we please move?" Daddy said, "If it happens one more time, we will." But it never happened again. The cameras must have scared them away. Or maybe they just found another house to creep around. We still live here. The statues are gone now. Daddy got rid of them. But sometimes, when the wind blows through the trees just right, I think I hear dancing. Tap, tap, tap.